The galaxy had watched humans for centuries. To most alien empires, humanity was only a fragile species on a small blue planet. They lived on one world, had no great fleets, no ancient empire, no control over galaxies. So, when the High Council of the Stars gathered, they declared a simple judgment. Humanity was weak, unworthy of true power. They believed this would end the discussion forever. But they were wrong. The word spread like fire across the stars. Humans are weak. The declaration was recorded in the official archives of the Galactic Council. Every race proud, ancient, and powerful nodded in agreement. To them, humans were nothing more than clever animals, a mistake of evolution that had no place among the mighty civilizations of the galaxy, yet on Earth. When news of this insult arrived, something stirred deep within the human heart. They remembered the past, the long history written not in words, but in blood, pain, and survival. Humanity had faced extinction many times before: ice, ages, plagues, wars, disasters. Each time they were told the same thing: you will not survive. And each time they proved the universe wrong. In a quiet command room deep under the earth, General Marcus Hale listened to the broadcast of the alien judgment. His jaw tightened, his fists clenched. He looked at the faces of his officers, men and women who had spent their whole lives preparing to defend Earth. "They think we are weak," Marcus said, his voice heavy but calm. "They have no idea who we are." But the story did not begin in that command room. It began with silence, with a single alien fleet sent to orbit Earth, not to destroy it, but to watch. The Council wanted to prove their declaration was correct. They wanted to see humans tremble. The fleet appeared in the skies one quiet morning. Hundreds of alien ships, shining like black knives, cut through the atmosphere and covered the sun. People in cities looked up and screamed. Cars stopped in the middle of roads. Children cried as shadows covered the land. For the first time in history, all of Earth stood frozen under the weight of a foreign power. But something strange happened. There was fear, yes, but it was not the fear the Council expected. Instead of surrender, there was silence, stillness, and then a deep fire, burning in every heart. People remembered the world wars, the endless disasters, the centuries of hardship. Aliens had come with their fleets and their arrogance, but humanity had seen worse. A farmer in Kansas gripped his shovel like a weapon. A nurse in Berlin whispered to herself that she would not run again. A soldier in Delhi stood taller, watching the skies. All around the world, humanity shared one thought: we have been here before. On the alien flagship, Commander Vayner watched with cold eyes. His scanners read no major defense systems rising, no giant ships being launched, no planetary shields. To him, it confirmed everything the Council believed. He turned to his crew and said, "Pathetic. They accept their weakness." His words echoed through the chamber, and alien officers laughed. But their laughter carried too soon. Down below, deep in the mountain bases of Earth, old bunkers opened, hidden tunnels lit up with fire and power. Humanity had not wasted its years in peace. They had prepared in silence, just as they always had before. And at the same moment, without orders, without speeches, people began to move. Volunteers lined up, families whispered goodbye. Soldiers strapped on armor. Aquilas climbed into hidden cockpits. Humanity had been insulted before, by nature, by history, by their own mistakes. But each insult only sharpened their will. And now, the greatest insult of all had been spoken by the stars themselves. For 5 minutes, the Council had believed in their judgment. For 5 minutes, the galaxy thought the humans were quiet because they were afraid. But that silence was not fury, was memory. Humanity was remembering every extinction they had already survived. And when memory turns to action, it becomes something unstoppable. The first human response did not come from a general or a leader. It came from a voice, a broadcast sent from an old radio tower in South America. It was a young woman's voice, shaking but strong. They say we are weak. They say we cannot survive, but we have always survived. And we will survive again. The message spread faster than any alien fleet. Across Earth, people heard her words and rose to their feet. The farmer tightened his grip on his shovel. The nurse put away her fear. The soldier raised his rifle in orbit. Commander Vayner frowned as his scanners began to detect strange signals movements. Underground, hidden transmissions, ancient satellites waking from silence. Impossible, he muttered. They are only one world. But it was too late. Humanity was no longer silent. The fire had begun, and as General Marcus Hale stood in the command room, he whispered words that would soon echo across the galaxy. They forgot we survived every extinction, and we will survive this too. The countdown to the first clash had begun. The alien fleet remained in Earth's orbit like a dark crown of metal. Their commander, Vayner, was calm, almost amused. His crew scanned the surface and found no real threat. To him, humans were only noise, a confused race clinging to survival. He believed the Council's words were truth. Humanity was weak. But down on Earth, something different was happening. The world was no longer silent. In hidden bases, lights burned brighter. Old satellites that had been forgotten since the early days of space travel suddenly came online, sending secret codes. Submarines deep under the oceans began to rise. A network, hidden for years, was waking. General Marcus Hale stood at the center of it all. His eyes were fixed on the giant screen that showed the alien fleet above Earth. They think we are waiting to die, he said, his voice cold. But we are waiting to fight. Around him, officers nodded. No one needed more speeches. They all knew what was at stake. The first spark of defiance came quietly. In the dark skies of South America, a small human aircraft broke through the clouds. It was old, decades behind alien technology, yet it carried a secret. Inside the cockpit, Captain Elena Torres adjusted her headset and whispered to herself, "Let's remind them who we are." She flew toward the orbiting ships, her tiny craft nothing compared to their massive vessels. On the alien flagship, alarms rang. "A human craft is approaching," an officer reported. Vayner laughed. "Destroy." It showed them how powerless they are. But when the alien cannons locked on, the aircraft did not fall. Instead, it split into dozens of fragments, tiny drones disguised as debris. They moved fast, slipping into the alien ship's blind spots. Within seconds, the drones attached themselves to the flagship's hull and sent waves of static into its systems. The massive ship shook, lights flickering. Vayner rose from his command chair, his smile gone. "What is this?" Down on Earth, Marcus received the signal. The drones had done their job. The first alien ship was blind. He leaned forward. Now, from hidden silos across the world, projectiles launched into the sky. They were not advanced energy weapons, but something older missiles sharpened with new technology, carrying electromagnetic bursts that humans had secretly developed. They tore through the atmosphere like burning stars. The aliens reacted too slowly. Their shields were strong against plasma, against lasers, against anything the galaxy had ever seen. But they had never prepared for weapons built from human creativity. Weapons designed not to destroy, but to disable. The missiles exploded, covering the fleet with waves of disruption. Alien screens went dark. Their engines stalled. A silence filled the skies as their ships drifted, powerless. For the first time, fear touched Commander Vayner. "They adapted," he whispered. He had expected surrender. Instead, he saw resistance. And resistance meant danger. On Earth, cheers rose. People flooded the streets, waving flags, hugging strangers. They saw with their own eyes that the invaders were not gods, not unstoppable. They bled, they broke. Humanity could fight, but Marcus did not cheer. He knew this was only the beginning. This strike buys us time, he told his officers. They will recover. They will come harder. His eyes narrowed as he thought of the council, sitting in their grand chambers far away, laughing at the thought of a weak species. Soon they would know the truth. Meanwhile, Captain Taurus's aircraft had returned to base, its wings scorched. She pulled off her helmet and sank into a chair. Her hands trembled, but her eyes were steady. They wanted to see fear, she whispered. Now they will see what fear really is. Above Earth, the alien fleet tried to recover. Engineers scrambled, systems rebooted, weapons reset. Slowly, the massive ships powered back to life. Vaynor gritted his teeth. His arrogance was gone, replaced by something colder. Prepare the full assault, he ordered. If they want war, we will. Show them war. But war was what humans understood best. For thousands of years, they had fought each other. They had turned battle into art, into science, into survival. Now, for the first time, all of humanity was united under one purpose. They were no longer enemies to one another. They were one species, one voice, one flame against the stars. And in the silence of space, as the alien fleet turned its weapons toward Earth, the humans prepared for the storm. Underground bunkers shook with the roar of engines. Submarines carried secret payloads to the deep. Pilots strapped themselves into cockpits, whispering the same words passed from soldier to soldier. They declared us weak. They will see why we survived every extinction. The battle lines were drawn. The next clash would decide whether Earth was truly defenseless or whether humanity would teach the galaxy the price of underestimating them. The night sky above Earth was no longer calm. The alien fleet hovered. Like a wall of black fire, their ships vast and endless. On the flagship, Commander Vayner's voice was sharp. No more games. They have defied the Council. They will learn what true power means. His officers moved quickly, activating rows of weapons that glowed with deadly light down on Earth. Alarms echoed across bases. Screens lit up with incoming scans. General Marcus Hale stood before his command staff, his face carved from stone. "They are coming," he said. His words carried no fear, only certainty. Around him, soldiers and officers prepared. The Council had expected panic, but what they saw instead was discipline. Humanity was not running. Humanity was waiting. The first alien strike came without warning. Beams of plasma tore through the atmosphere, slamming into the oceans. Walls of water rose like mountains, smashing across coastlines. Cities trembled as alien weapons scorched the sky. To the aliens, this was a show of dominance. To humans, it was the opening of war. From deep under the Pacific, hidden submarines moved like shadows. They carried payloads never tested in open combat. Commander Lewis, aboard the submarine Titan, gave a steady order. Target the largest ship. Fire. Torpedoes launched silently into the dark water. Then shot upward like arrows of fire. Above, alien scanners picked up the movement too late. The torpedoes struck the underside of one of the smaller cruisers. Explosions ripped through its hull. Flames burst into the void. For the first time, an alien ship fell before the eyes of the galaxy. Humanity had drawn blood. On the flagship, silence filled the command bridge. Vaynor gripped the railing, his claws digging into the metal. "Impossible," he whispered. "How can primitives?" He stopped, realizing what had happened. Humans had used the ocean as cover, hiding their weapons where no alien sensors had looked. It was a tactic born from desperation, but it worked. Down below, cheers erupted across Earth. For a moment, people forgot their fear. In New York, in Tokyo, in Nairobi, in villages and cities alike, they saw hope. Humanity had hurt the giants above, but Marcus did not celebrate. His eyes stayed on the screen, watching the alien. Fleet shift formation. They are learning, he said quietly. They will not make the same mistake twice. His officers nodded. They knew every victory would come with a price. The price came quickly. The aliens retaliated with fury. Plasma strikes rained down on military bases. Shields built from human technology cracked under the pressure. Entire mountainsides exploded as alien cannons tore through bunkers. Captain Alina Torres, who had led the first drone strike, barely escaped as her base collapsed under fire. Dust and fire chased her out into the night, but she kept moving. "Not today," she whispered, refusing to stop. Humanity's defenses strained, but they did not break. Fighter jets screamed into the sky, old but fast, weaving between alien fire. They carried missiles painted with the names of lost cities and fallen families. Some jets were destroyed instantly, but others found their marks, striking at alien cruisers again and again. The sky became a battlefield of fire and courage. On the flagship, Vayner's anger grew. "They should not be able to resist us," he shouted. His officers avoided his eyes, but deep inside, fear was spreading. Every alien had believed the Council's words. Humans were weak, fragile, too emotional. But what they saw now was not weakness. It was something else, something they could not understand. In a hidden command bunker, Marcus listened to the reports. Losses were heavy, but morale was unbroken. He stood before his staff and said, "This is what they do not understand. Fight even when we are outmatched. We fight because we have no choice." His words spread through encrypted channels, reaching pilots, soldiers, and even civilians hiding in shelters. Across Earth, people repeated the same vow. "We will fight," as the third day of battle ended. Both sides retreated for a moment. Alien ships hovered above the planet, scarred but unbroken. Earth's cities smoldered, but the human spirit still burned. The war was no longer about survival alone. It was about pride. About proving to the galaxy that humans would not bow. Vayner stood at the observation deck of his ship, staring down at the planet. His voice was low, filled with something he had never felt before. "They are not weak," he admitted. The words tasted bitter. "They are dangerous." On Earth, Marcus looked at the stars and whispered, "They think this is the end. But for us, this is only the beginning." The galaxy had called humanity weak. But with every strike, every sacrifice, humans were carving a new truth into the stars. And soon, the Council would be forced to face it. The war reached its fourth day, and the skies over Earth were painted with smoke and fire. Alien fleets circled above like predators, but their eyes were no longer filled with certainty. Every strike against humanity had been met with defiance. Every attempt to break them had only sharpened their resolve. What the Council called weakness was turning into something the galaxy had never faced before. Commander Vayner stood on the bridge of his flagship, pacing like a restless beast. Reports came in from across the fleet ships damaged, systems disrupted, human tactics impossible to predict. His second-in-command finally spoke, his voice uncertain. "Commander, they are adapting too quickly. Every time we strike, they answer differently." Vayner's claws scraped against the metal railing. "They cannot keep this up. They are only one world." But even as he spoke, doubt gnawed at him. He had seen the fire in human eyes, the kind of fire no calculation could extinguish. Down below, General Marcus Hale prepared the next move. His command room was silent except for the steady hum of machines. Maps of Earth glowed on the walls, dotted with red for alien targets. "We cannot fight them with numbers," Marcus said to his officers. "We fight them with memory. We fight them with survival." His hand pointed to a hidden valley in the Himalayas. "There lies our chance." For decades, humans had built secret projects in places far from prying eyes. Buried deep under ice and stone was one of them, Project Phoenix. But it was more than a weapon. It was a reminder of humanity's will. It's an experimental warship built in silence, designed not to be stronger, but smarter. Its engines were old, but its systems were fierce. Born from the lessons of every war in human history, Captain Elena Torres was chosen to lead it. Still bruised from surviving the last bombardment, she stood before her crew in the hidden hangar. "They think they own the skies," she told them, her voice steady despite her wounds. "Today, we take the skies back." The Phoenix rose slowly from its mountain cradle, snow and ice cascading down its hull. To outsiders, it looked like a relic, crude compared to the alien giants above. But inside, its heart pulsed with fire. Powered by technology humans had fused from every scrap they had gathered over years of secrecy. The launch was hidden from alien scanners, till it was too late. By the time Vayner's fleet detected it, the Phoenix was already in the sky, engines roaring like thunder. "Another human toy?" one alien officer sneered. "Destroy it." But when the alien cruisers fired, the Phoenix danced. It moved faster than expected, weaving through beams of plasma with impossible agility. Torres sat in the command chair, her hands steady on the controls. "Mark the lead." "Ship," she ordered. Her crew obeyed, targeting not the strongest, but the one ship holding the fleet's communication relay. The Phoenix fired a storm of missiles, each one carrying an electromagnetic charge. The alien shields flared, then cracked. The relay ship shuddered as its systems collapsed. In seconds, the entire fleet's coordination fractured. Orders stopped flowing. Ships drifted, confused and blind. Vayner's eyes widened. What had they done? His officers scrambled, shouting for instructions. The aliens had always fought as one, bound by flawless communication. But now, they were scattered, each ship alone. Down on Earth, people watched from rooftops and bunkers as the impossible happened. A single human warship, smaller than the rest, tore holes into the fleet's formation. Fire lit the heavens as alien ships collided or fell out of orbit, crashing into the oceans below. The roar of their destruction shook the planet. In cities across Earth, people erupted into cheers. Children hugged their parents, soldiers raised their fists. For the first time, they did not just resist, they won. The Phoenix had given them their first real victory. Inside the ship, Torres allowed herself a small smile. "We are not weak," she whispered to the stars. On the flagship, silence fell heavy. Vayner gripped the command rail so hard it bent beneath his strength. His voice was low, filled with something close to fear. They should not have done this. This was not supposed to happen. His second-in-command spoke carefully, almost in disbelief. "Commander, if one ship can do this, what if they have more?" The thought struck Vayner like a blade. He turned his gaze back to Earth, where lights burned bright against the night. "No," he said coldly. "We crush them now before the fire spreads." But deep in his heart, he knew. The fire had already spread. General Marcus received the report of the victory. He did not celebrate. He only looked at the glowing screens and said, "This is just the first. The galaxy will hear it soon. Humans are not weak. We survive." And as the Phoenix disappeared back into the shadows of Earth, the war entered a new phase. Humanity had drawn blood before, but now they had shown the galaxy something greater. They had shown that survival was not luck. It was their nature. The Council's judgment was breaking, piece by piece. And soon, they would be forced to face the truth. The alien council chamber was silent when the news arrived. A fleet of alien ships, believed to be invincible, had been defeated on the edge of the solar system. It was not only the loss of ships that shocked them, but also the way it happened. Humanity had survived again, using strange tactics, old strategies, and a stubborn refusal to surrender. The aliens looked at each other in disbelief. They had declared humans weak. Yet weakness was nowhere to be found in these reports. Far from the Council on Earth, humanity was not celebrating. They were preparing. The air was filled with urgency. Scientists worked late into the night. Soldiers trained in hidden facilities. Farmers gave food to armies without hesitation. Even children learned drills in case of attack. Every corner of Earth seemed to know that survival was not a gift, it was a duty. Humanity had faced ice ages, plagues, and wars, and each time they had come out stronger. This time would be no different. Admiral Core of the alien empire stood before his commanders. His pride had been wounded. "They are still only humans," he growled. "They fight like cornered animals, but cornered animals always die in the end." Yet his words lacked the confidence they once held. Reports showed that humans adapted faster than any species he had ever fought. One alien commander whispered, "If they survive their own planet's disasters, what will stop them now?" The room fell silent. No one had an answer. Meanwhile, on Earth, a story spread quickly, stories of ancestors who had faced extinction again and again, round fire pits, in small villages, and even on glowing screens in cities. People repeated tales of survival. They spoke of the Black Death, where millions perished, yet humanity rebuilt. They spoke of world wars, when the sky burned and cities fell, yet humanity rebuilt. They spoke of asteroids that wiped out beasts much stronger than man, yet humanity still walked the earth. Every story became fuel. Every memory became a weapon. On the front lines, Commander Alina stood before her troops. Her voice was steady. "They declared us weak. They thought we were fragile. But tell me, who else has lived through fire and ice? Who else has buried billions and still built again? Who else has turned pain into power?" The soldiers raised their fists and shouted as one. They were not fighting only for Earth. They were fighting for every ancestor who had refused to give up. As the human fleet moved out, they carried no illusions. The aliens were powerful, their ships vast, their weapons deadly. But humans carried something the aliens could not understand: memory. Each pilot whispered old family names. Each soldier carried symbols from their past. Humanity was not just one generation. It was thousands of generations standing together, and in the silence of space, this unity gave them strength. Admiral Core's second fleet entered the solar system. He expected panic. Instead, he saw humans waiting. Not hiding, not begging, but waiting with open firepower. The first battle was brutal. Ships cracked open. Lasers burned across the dark. But when alien technology adapted, humans adapted faster. When weapons failed, they invented new ones mid-battle. When strategies collapsed, they changed without hesitation. Admiral Core realized with dread that he was not facing soldiers, he was facing survivors. On Earth, civilians refused to bow. Cities turned into fortresses. Small villages became hidden bases. Even forests and mountains were prepared with traps. Humanity turned their entire planet into a weapon. Every grain of soil, every drop of water, every gust of wind became part of the defense. Children carried messages. Farmers carried rifles. Doctors became commanders of field hospitals. It was as if the whole planet had risen to speak one message. "We have survived worse." In the alien council, whispers grew. One elder said, "Perhaps we judged them too quickly." Another replied, "No, we judged them wrongly. They are not weak. They are what strength means." But it was too late to stop the war now. Humanity's fire was already burning, and it would not stop until every alien threat was silenced. And so the story continued: humans who refused to break, aliens who began to fear, and a universe that started to learn the truth. Weakness had never been humanity's story. Survival was. The alien leaders thought the humans would finally give up. They had destroyed cities, broken armies, and silenced many voices across Earth. But in secret places, deep underground, the last pieces of humanity were coming together. Not only soldiers, but scientists, doctors, teachers, and children. They gathered around fires in caves, in tunnels under mountains, and inside broken ships. Their eyes still burned with the same fire that had carried humans through every disaster in history. They were tired, hungry, and wounded, but they were not finished. Humanity had never been finished. One night, the alien commanders received a signal. It was a voice, human but calm, carried through the static of space. It said, "You call us weak, you call us broken, but we are still here. And if you want to understand humanity, you must understand one thing: we never stop fighting. Not even after losing everything." The aliens laughed at the message. They called it empty words, but those words were only the beginning. In the ruins of an old laboratory, human scientists worked quietly. They had found something in Earth's own history, a virus that once nearly ended humanity, but had also made humans stronger through survival. They studied it, reshaped it, and created a weapon not of steel, but of biology. Unlike the alien machines, this weapon was alive. The humans called it Extinction's memory. They whispered that if the aliens thought humans could only fight with ships and bullets, they would soon learn how wrong they were. Meanwhile, human fighters prepared their last plan. They had no massive fleets, no glowing cannons like the aliens. What they had was courage. Old pilots who once flew planes rebuilt them with alien scraps. Farmers turned trucks into armored beasts. Children ran messages through tunnels. Everyone had a role. Humanity became a single body, every piece connected, every heart beating with the same rhythm: survival. When the aliens launched their final strike, expecting to wipe out the last humans, they found something strange. Their soldiers began to cough. Their armor became heavy. Their movements slowed. Was the virus silent, invisible, spreading through their systems? The aliens panicked. Their great ships fell out of formation. Their soldiers grew weak. For the first time, the invaders felt fear. At that moment, the humans attacked. Old rockets shot into the sky. Planes patched together with broken wings flew like birds that refused to die. Explosions lit the night as the aliens tried to fight back, but their strength was fading. Humanity struck not with power, but with timing, hitting the enemy exactly when their weakness was revealed. The earth shook with the sound of resistance in the middle of the chaos. A group of children stood on a hill, watching the sky. They saw ships burning, lights falling like stars. One child whispered, "They thought we were weak." Another answered, "But they never learned why we survived before." Even in their young voices, there was pride. The aliens had underestimated not just the human body, but the human spirit. The battle did not end in one night. Many humans still fell. Many families still cried. But the aliens, who once believed they were invincible, now carried fear in their hearts. They realized they had made a mistake far greater than any war plant. They had declared humanity weak. Without knowing the long story of survival written in human blood and memory, humanity's secret weapon was never the virus, nor the rockets, nor the broken machines. It was the spirit that refused to die, a spirit that had carried them through ice ages, famines, floods, and plagues. A spirit that now stood against the stars themselves. The aliens began to retreat, not because they were fully defeated, but because they finally understood. Humans would never stop. Even if one generation fell, the next would rise, and in that moment, under the broken sky, humanity rose once again. Not as victims, not as prey, but as survivors. Survivors who would fight until the last breath, and then beyond. The alien retreat was slow, like shadows pulling away from fire. Their ships, once bright and endless, now looked weak against the burning sky. Each engine trail they left behind was proof that they no longer ruled Earth. They had believed humans were broken animals, creatures of flesh too weak to fight steel. But now they knew the truth. Humanity was not made of steel. Humanity was made of something stronger: endurance, courage, and an unshakable will to rise after every fall. The survivors watched from mountains, from ruined cities, from the deep valleys where they had hidden. Tears fell from their faces, not only for victory, but for the many who were gone. Fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, all lost in the long fight. The land itself carried scars: forests burned, rivers poisoned, cities crushed into dust. But still, the people stood. For the first time in years, they felt hope rising like a sunrise after endless night. In the underground base, the leaders of the resistance gathered. Their clothes were torn, their faces thin, but their eyes burned like fire. One of them whispered, "They thought they could erase us. They thought fear would be our end." Another answered, "But fear became our weapon. Fear taught us how to fight, how to stand, how to endure." Around the table, tired heads nodded. They all knew the truth. Humanity's greatest strength was not power, but unity. Every person had carried a piece of the struggle, and together those pieces had formed an unbreakable chain. Far above, the alien commander sat inside his ship, silent. For the first time in his long life, he felt the weight of defeat. Not defeat by stronger weapons, but by something he could never understand. He replayed the voice message humans had sent before the final battle. "We never stop fighting, not even after losing everything." The words echoed inside his mind, louder than explosions, sharper than weapons. He realized that to fight against humanity was to fight against the very nature of survival itself. The war was not truly over. The aliens could return one day. But, for now, the skies cleared. The earth grew quiet. Humanity breathed together, as if the planet itself had been holding its breath for years. In the silence, a child picked up a broken stone from the ruins and carved a small word into the ground: "Survive." Others gathered around, adding their own words: "Hope, rise, never again." Soon, the broken earth carried a message that stretched across the ruins, written not with ink, but with the hands of survivors. Days turned into weeks. The survivors began to rebuild. Farmers returned to fields, planting seeds in soil that still smelled of smoke. Builders shaped shelters out of stone and wood. Teachers told stories to children, not just of the war, but of the long history of human struggle and victory. Around every fire, the same story was told. They came to end us. But we are still here. We are always here. The story became a song, and the song became a promise. In one small village, an old man stood at the edge of the field, watching the stars. His voice was low, but steady as he spoke to the children around him. "Look up," he said. "Those stars once carried our enemies, but now they carry our future. Remember this: we did not win because of weapons. We won because we remembered who we are: survivors, fighters, dreamers. As long as we breathe, no one can ever take Earth from us." The children listened, their eyes wide with wonder. One of them raised a hand and asked, "What if they come back?" The old man smiled. Sadly, his face lined with years of battle. Then we will fight again, and if we fall, you will rise. That is the way of humanity. We do not end. We continue. The words filled the night with strength greater than any weapon. And so, humanity's legacy was written not in victory alone, but in endurance. The scars of war remained, but within those scars grew something new: unity, pride, and an unshakable bond between people who had once been broken. They had stared into the face of extinction, and instead of surrendering, they had whispered back to the darkness, "We are still here." In the silence of the stars, even the universe seemed to listen. The story of humanity had not ended. It had only begun a new chapter. A chapter written by survivors for survivors. A chapter that declared to every corner of existence that no force, no matter how strong, could erase the fire of the human spirit. And so Earth stood, wounded but alive. The people rose from the ruins with tired hands and hopeful hearts. Humanity had faced the edge of extinction and survived, because survival was not just their weapon, it was their destiny.